Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini-series with the Los Angeles Angels. And we are just past the trade deadline in the 2027 season, and we're having a good year here with the Angels after a 64-win season in 2025 when we took over the team in mid-March. We won 80 games a year ago, and at 60-45 here, we are poised to finally not just have a winning record, but hopefully guide this team to the playoffs. We've won 5 in a row at this point, 4 games back in the division, although we still are third in the AL West behind the Rangers and the Mariners. But we are 5 games up on the Kansas City Royals and 6 up on the White Sox for the final wild card spot in the American League. So I feel like we've got a pretty good chance of guiding this team into the playoffs this year. Made a number of trades during the month of July, primarily focused on improving our pitching. Brought on both Spencer Schwellenbach and Taj Bradley in relatively expensive trades. Had to give up our starting catcher, Adley Rutschman, to pick up Schwellenbach. Had to give up one of the top prospects in our system, as well as our closer, Luke Weaver, to pick up Taj Bradley. But we've made a couple of other trades for Joan Duran and Sam Hentges to supplement our bullpen and backfill. Honestly, another reliever in the mix that we also picked up, Ryan Walker. So we have definitely revamped our bullpen for this year with primarily rentals, and hopefully revamped our rotation going forward to ensure that we're not just competitive this year, but hopefully competitive for the long term. We've got solid to very good defense up the middle now with Drake Baldwin, the rookie, Anthony Volpe, and Grant McCray at catcher, shortstop, and center fielder, respectively. But particularly with Rutschman gone, definitely concerned about the amount of offense that we're going to get from those positions down the stretch this year. So the goal, as I noted, not just to have a winning record, but to make the playoffs. Going to have a fair amount of divisional games to start off this month. Finish up a series with the Mets at home, and then on the road against our division rival, Mariners and Athletics. And then later on in the month, we'll be finishing off at home against Seattle. In between, in entirely, except for the Atlanta Braves and Los Angeles Dodgers, AL-focused schedule for this month of August. So hopefully we can remain healthy, deliver another winning month, and put this team in position to make a couple big call-ups come September and ensure that we do guide our Angels into the playoffs. And we're in a reasonably good situation injury-wise right now. Ben Joyce, who had been our closer last year and really struggled with some injuries this year, suffered a partially torn UCL, and he's going to be out until probably the very late stages of spring training at best next season. So that necessitated some of the moves that we made to bring on some relief pitchers. But other than Joyce, the Major League team is healthy and well at this point, and our hope is certainly that we continue that going forward. Thought our team was looking too good there and realized was still comping it to the PCL rather than Major League Baseball. And we've only played 500 ball, 7-7 over the first couple weeks of the month of August. I actually had a pretty brutal first week of August with that road trip. Lost 4 in a row at one point to Seattle and Oakland, but since then we've played better. We've won 5 of our last 7 at this point, and fortunately no one running away from us in the division. We're actually 2.5 behind. Seattle and Texas are tied for the divisional lead at this point. Zach Neto is still on the leaderboard, third in the American League in steals. Nobody else on our team on the leaderboard, although our former closer, Luke Weaver, continues to lead the league in saves. And Tampa Bay is actually resurgent a bit. They've been playing really well. They were well below 500, or I don't know if well below, but they were definitely below 500 when we made the trade for Taj Bradley, and somehow they've picked things up. Unfortunately, we are a little bit less secure in our wild card spot between Seattle and Texas. Obviously, one of them will get the division. So we're still in the third wild card spot at this point, but only 3.5 up on Kansas City. So hopefully we can play a bit better over these next few weeks until we do get to September roster expansion. And the ebbs and flows of a baseball season are always interesting. I just had an excellent week, 5-1, but we are further behind in the division than we had hoped. The Mariners have now won 8 in a row, so we actually lost a game during the week despite that 5-1 record. Positively, we've moved up to the second wild card spot, a game up on the Orioles for the third spot, and 5 games up potentially on the Royals to maintain a playoff spot. Neto now tied for the league lead with stolen bases. Check in on how a couple of our newer guys are doing for us. Schwellenbach 4-2 with a 2.28 ERA, so he has been fantastic. Taj Bradley also 4-2 with a 2.86 ERA. So those two have definitely stabilized at the top of the rotation. And it seems like King, Scott, and Burns are benefiting somewhat from perhaps not going up against his high-level pitchers. Joan Duran taken over as our closer, 8 saves in 14 games with a 2.57 ERA. Has walked 10 batters in 14 innings pitched. Fortunately, he's only allowed 7 hits, so he hasn't been perfect, but he's certainly been solid. Sam Hentges, since he came over, a 0.92 ERA over 19 2/3 innings, 0.61 whip, so he's been fantastic for us. And Ryan Walker, 3.12 ERA over 17 1/3 innings pitched. So definitely have taken the pitching up to another level since we made those changes. Check in on Dylan Cruz, who was the lone position player we made a move for, and he's hitting .250, 2 homers and 10 ribbies and 64 at-bats. So kind of what we expected, a slightly above average offensive player, but that's really all we were looking for to kind of stabilize the right-handed hitting portion of our corner outfield platoon against left-handed pitchers. Drake Baldwin, the youngster, not delivering Adley Rutschman offense, that's for sure, hitting just .202 in his first 99 major league at-bats. So he's actually been slightly below replacement level given the really poor offense combined with respectable, albeit not great defense for a catcher. And as we head towards the end of August, another good week, 5-2 record. So we have finally moved into second place, 3 games behind the Mariners in the division. And we're in the top wild card spot, game and a half out of the third spot, and 5 games up on being out of the playoffs. So we're actually making a bit more progress recently in terms of our battle for the division than we have to ensure that we have a playoff spot. Still just 5 games away from being out of the playoffs, but we are slowly climbing up in this AL West race over these last couple of weeks. And we split our final 2 months of the game against Seattle, so as we're trying to catch them, that's certainly not optimal, as he has more often than not. Juan Moreno, the international free agent that we flirted with last offseason, the National League Rookie of the Month once again, the 28-year-old established player, hitting .307, 38 homers and 102 ribbies. He's put up a WAR of close to 6. So the switch hitter, the wrench, having a fantastic season, but we can't complain too much. We are 78-56, 3 games out in the division as we begin the month of September. Neto leading the league in steals. He remains the only Angel on the leaderboards. 2 games up on the final 2 wild card spots 4 games up on the Royals to potentially not be in the playoffs. Royals continue to play very well, 9-1 in their last 10. So there's a pretty big gap of 5.5 games at this point between the Royals, followed by the Rays, and then the Yankees, who are 6 behind them. So nothing is guaranteed, but it does seem like there are going to be most likely 4 teams: our Angels, the Rangers, the Orioles, and the Royals, fighting for 3 wild card spots in the American League this year. Over in the National League, similar situation, although the Phillies and Dodgers both look pretty secure. Looks like the Cardinals and the Giants may be fighting for that final wild card spot in the senior circuit. And we'll start off by talking who we're not going to bring up in September roster expansion. Thought there was a chance that Andres Rodriguez would be making his debut. Putt, the number 2 prospect in baseball, the 22-year-old that we picked 6th overall in the draft a little over a year ago, has been good in AAA, hitting .271, 13 homers and 41 ribbies. He's also stolen 13 bases, so he's put up a 117 WRC plus. Not a ton left for him to prove in AAA, certainly, even though it's been a very rapid rise through our organization over the last season and a half since we did pick him. But we think his contact and his power are still a bit below average for a major league player. And taking a look at his ratings, he's definitely not ready to face major league left-handed pitching. Looks like he could not embarrass himself against right-handed pitching, but given that the team is playing pretty well right now and a playoff spot looks well within our grasp with the defense-focused center fielder we have right now with Mr. McRae, going to just let Rodriguez play out the rest of this year in AAA, not get the service time clock ticking on him, hopefully have him in the development lab over the winter where we can maybe fill some of that gap between his current and potential power, and then have him as a hopefully very strong candidate to make the team out of spring training next year, or if not, be an early season call-up for us. So we've added 2 pitchers, a couple of guys we'll use in long relief roles. George Klassen, guy who got sent down, not really because he hadn't been pitching well, but just because we had so many pitchers this year, especially with some of the trades that we made. Put up a 2.80 ERA with a 15-2 record in AAA for us, a 2.70 ERA in 10 previous innings at the major league level. Klassen certainly looks like a guy who, in a best-case scenario, could be a significant contributor, at least to our bullpen next year, since the rotation is pretty strong. But hopefully he continues to improve and makes a case for the rotation. Another starting pitcher, Luis Serna, going to get to make his major league debut. Picked him up in a trade with the Yankees almost 2 years ago. We got them to throw in Serna when we took Robbie Ray off their hands as a rental for the final year of his contract, and as it turned out, the final year of his career, given the injury that he suffered. He hasn't been great in Salt Lake, 8-6 record with a 5.03 ERA. But to be fair, pitching in Salt Lake and pitching in the PCL, that still allowed him to put up a 1.5 WAR. Don't necessarily view him being a huge part of our rotation going forward. Honestly think he's going to be a borderline guy, hopefully, if we continue pitching, improving this pitching staff to just be a long or middle reliever for us. But we will take a first look in the majors at Serna and another look at Klassen over these next few weeks. And 2 position players back up. Matthew Lugo is going to give us a little bit of insurance in the outfield. Hit just 201 in 144 major league at-bats earlier this year, but he's performed very well down in Salt Lake, where he's been since recovering from an injury. And since we did add Dylan Cruz to take his spot in the lineup, at least his platoon spot in the lineup, hit 327 in 101 AAA at-bats, primarily over the last month. So he'll serve as a pinch hitter off the bench, and he's also a guy who could play third base in a pinch if we needed him to. The other addition is going to get some playing time, or more consistent playing time. That's the 21-year-old catcher, Juan Flores. We mentioned when we traded away Adley Rutschman that we thought that a platoon of Flores and Baldwin was potentially our best defensive option down the line. And we promoted Flores to be our starting AAA catcher when we brought Baldwin up to the majors. And he's hit .336 in 122 at-bats, 141 WRC+. Now, given what he's done over the last few years in high A ball and double A, think that he is certainly not really that kind of hitter and probably benefited from the good hitting environment in the PCL. But we like his defense, and we might as well start testing him. He's going to be in the lineup for us against left-handed pitching. He's the best defensive catcher out of the trio of Baldwin, Flores, and O'Hoppe. So Flores will be our catcher against left-handed pitchers the rest of the way. Hopefully take a little pressure off of Baldwin, and O'Hoppe, who's the weakest of the three defensively, unlikely with two guys ahead of him to play much catcher over the next month. He'll be our everyday DH, as he has been most of this season, except when he's been our backup catcher to Rutschman and now Baldwin. And taking a look at our schedule for September, the team that we are chasing in the division, the Seattle Mariners, we play only once more this final game of the homestand today, the rubber game of the series. Hopefully we can get the W to close the gap on them to 2 games. We do have 3 games at home against Texas, and then 3 games later in the month at Texas. They're the team that's third place that we're involved in the wild card race with. Towards the end of the month, we've got 3 against Kansas City. So those should be very important in determining the wild card race. In the month of October, we'll finish off with 3 games at the Twins. Certainly some other divisional games with Houston on the docket as well, and then more games against the Dodgers and the Marlins and the Nationals, and as well as Cincinnati, as we have a lot of NL opponents on the calendar here in the month of September, which is a bit odd, but I guess I need to get used to the non-old school baseball scheduling that we have here in the 2020s. And a quick look at our team statistics. We're coming off of our best month of the year, 18-11 in August, so that makes me feel like net, even losing Rutschman, Weaver, the trades did help us this year, and as we've talked about, we think some of them will be very helpful to us in subsequent seasons. Still 5th in the American League in runs scored, and somewhat surprisingly still 9th in the American League in runs allowed, although both our starter and bullpen ERA have been improving in the rankings recently. Defensive efficiency, we're in the top half of the league, and zone rating, we're 4th, so the defense this year is certainly better than a year ago. We have put together 5 consecutive winning months. The worst was June, when we were only 2 games over 500, with another winning month here in the month of September. We're not just going to have clinched a winning record, which we'll do with 4 wins, so feeling pretty confident we'll do that. But I'm pretty confident that with a winning record here in the month of September, we'll ultimately ensure that we make our first playoff appearance in Los Angeles as well. And we did win the final game against Seattle 8-0 to claim that series. We also took 2 out of 3 on the road at Houston. So as we sit here 2 games behind the Mariners, as we are definitely battling for the division, and you can see the 82-win Red Sox lead the AL East, the 82-win Tigers lead the Central, and the 82-win Mariners lead the AL West. So although we're right now 2 games out in the division, it's not inconceivable that with a little luck could not just win the division but have the best record in the American League and the best record in baseball, which is pretty shocking for this team. We are now up 4 on the final wild card spot, 4.5 games up on the Rangers to avoid missing the playoffs entirely. So certainly would love to keep winning 75% of our games across this month of September. If we're able to do that, we'll shockingly probably end up with the best record in all of baseball. And unfortunately, we lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers, but the Mariners also struggling, still just a game and a half behind in the division, so we actually made up half a game on them. As expected, the impossible sign, Luis Trujillo, we did not end up signing him, so we'll get compensation picks for him next year, which was largely our goal when we selected him. And we did take 2 out of 3 at home against the division rival Rangers, heading on the road after 3 games against Cincinnati to face Miami and then Texas again at the beginning of next week. We were briefly, after we won the first 2 in the series, in first place, but the Rangers did come back to take that third, so we are half a game behind the Mariners now, 5 games up on the final wild card spot, and 7 games up on the Royals to avoid missing the playoffs entirely, as they've lost 4 in a row. So our magic number for a playoff berth is down to 12 at this point, and the Mariners' magic number is 19, so I guess that means our magic number is 20 to clinch the division. Neto, tied for the league lead in steals, remains on the leaderboard for us. As I mentioned, have some non-divisional games coming up this next week, home against Cincinnati and then at Miami, before those 3 critical games against Texas, where we could conceivably clinch a playoff spot if we haven't gotten really good over these next 6 games and done it before then. And we actually had the monster week that we needed, swept Cincinnati at home and then swept Miami on the road. So all of a sudden, it's not a question of a winning record. It hasn't been that way for a couple weeks now. Not a question of making the playoffs, hopefully. It's a question of not even just can we win the division. The question is whether we'll shockingly have the best record in baseball with these Los Angeles Angels. Right now we are 4 up on the Mariners after winning those 6 in a row in the AL West, and we are tied with the Detroit Tigers for the best record in baseball at 90-60. Admittedly, only half a game ahead of the Red Sox, so the margin between the best record in baseball and home field advantage throughout the playoffs and a first-round bye and having to play in a wild card series is very slim as it can possibly be at half a game right now. But we're certainly positioned very well, and we'll see if we can keep the momentum going. Got 3 against Texas. They are holding on to that final wild card spot right now. They are 3 up on Kansas City for that final wild card spot, so we can make life more difficult for our divisional rival if we're able to take 2 out of 3 or even sweep the Rangers. And we did lose the first game to Texas. Minor injury, Nolan Shanuel. And again, we've been playing with our minor league teams offline, so Shanuel is not a superstar. This is what he would look like if he was in the California League. Had a solid year for us with a 109 WRC plus, back stiffness, minimal impact on hitting, moderate impact on throwing. With Lugo on the roster now, we're just going to back off on Shanuel, give him the rest of the week off, and take advantage of the fact that we do have 30 guys on the major league roster right now. Keeping him healthy is not critically important as it would be with some of our other players, but he's the only one who's banged up, so we'll be conservative with him. And unfortunately, we were swept on the road at Texas. So after winning 6 in a row, lost 3 in a row now, headed home, which hopefully will help us. 3 against Washington before we finish off this week, and then we'll finish with 3 at home against Kansas City. And then when we get to the month of October, we will go on the road for that brief road trip at Minnesota. Fortunately, Seattle continues to struggle, so we're up 3.5 in the division at this point. Magic number of 7. So we're certainly not going to have things clinched in these 3 games against Washington. we have now fallen 3 games behind the Tigers for the best record in baseball. Fortunately for us, the Red Sox also have lost 3 in a row, so we're still up on them for the first round bye, which would be huge to avoid a wild card series. I'd say that's our primary goal right now. We definitely have always wanted to have a winning record and make the playoffs with this team. Not going to get too greedy and claim that we want the best record in baseball, but with where we're situated, a first round bye rather than having to play in a wild card series would certainly be very beneficial to us. And unfortunately, it ended up being a rough week for us. We also lost 2 out of 3 at home to Washington, dropped the second and third games after winning the first game of the series. So standings-wise, it's still interesting. Magic number is 5. We're only up 2 on the Rangers now, as the Rangers have won 8 in a row. We helped them do that. The Mariners 3 games back, so the division still definitely in doubt. We are still a game up on the Red Sox for the final wild card, or for the home field, for the second best record in the American League, and the opportunity to avoid the wild card series and then to host a divisional series. Neto still tied for the league lead in stolen bases as we head into the final week of the season. Unfortunately, as you'd expect, the injuries now all of a sudden coming. Ryan Walker, the reliever that we picked up in a trade with the Dodgers about 2.5 months ago at this point, out for 2 weeks with elbow inflammation. His performance with us has not been as good over the last several weeks as it was when we checked in on him earlier. He's actually been below replacement level right now. So we'll put him on the IL. Could have him back, particularly if we get a first round bye and ultimately end up in a divisional series. Unfortunately, Kyle Tucker is injured with a diagnosis pending, and that could be a lot more significant. So the OOTB gods doing what they always do as a team is rolling and heading towards what you hope is a potential playoff appearance. That injury bug is, of course, which we've been very sheltered from this year, of course, is ramping up in this final week or two of the season. And Kyle Tucker, day-to-day with a strained rib cage for the next 3 weeks. Minimal impact on hitting and running. Given that we're in a pennant race, I think we might have him tough through this over the next few days. The hope would be that in these 3 home games against Kansas City, we can play really well and get the division clinched and maybe give him the last couple days of the regular season off, but certainly want to do everything possible to get that first round bye. And having Tucker in the lineup, even if his hitting and his running are slightly compromised, is probably still the right move for us. But would love to give him a little time off the final series of the season if we can. And certainly would love to at least have about a week to get through those wild card series before beginning playing. Although with him day-to-day for 3 weeks, this seems like something he's just going to unfortunately have to play through. Even if we sit him out for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, he's going to still have the same issue lingering when the playoffs begin for us. So we're going to have him suck it up and see what he can do. And one mission has been accomplished. We won today against Kansas City 4-3, so we have at least clinched a playoff spot. Magic number for the division down to 4. Texas still lurking 2 behind us. They've won 9 in a row at this point. Seattle is 4 behind. So we've got the winning record, obviously. Strong winning record at this point with 92 wins and counting. Game up on the Red Sox for a first round bye, but we're going to have to keep winning here. Final 2 games of the regular season at home against Kansas City, and then we've got 3 on the road in Minnesota. Looks like obviously we know Kansas City is still in the mix, 2 out of the final wild card spot, so they're going to be playing for a lot. Minnesota at 70 and 87 might be a bit easier matchup for us, but sometimes you say things like that, and baseball is a funny game that makes you pay for it. Over in the National League, Juan Moreno, as you can see, with a 316 average, is a batting title away from potentially winning a Triple Crown in his first year. And he's not going to make up 23 points on Gabriel Moreno in the batting race, but likely to lead the league in both homers and ribbies. As you'll remember, we offered him $40 million a year for 7 years. He came back wanting over $46 million a year for 7 years from us, and that's when we said enough. The Phillies ended up paying him a little over $41 million a year on average over 7 years to lock him up, and he's clearly been very successful for them this season. And unfortunately, our magic number remains at 4. And even more unfortunately, the Texas Rangers just keep winning. They've won 10 in a row at this point, so they have closed the gap on us to just one game in the division. 10-4 loss to Kansas City yesterday. They jumped out with 7 runs over those first 3 innings, so we were never really in the game. Tucker, 3 for 4 with a run scored and a couple of ribbies, and his 22nd double of the year, despite playing through the rib cage pain, but a rough outing from Michael King, whose record drops to 11-8 with one of his worst outings of the year. 6 hits, 4 walks, and 7 earned runs over just 2 innings pitched. Zach Neto injured after getting hit by a pitch, but looks like just a temporary issue, and they took him out of the game for precautionary reasons. So hopefully no more injuries, and hopefully we can hold off the Rangers. And we did get a 3-0 win against Kansas City to take the series. Not surprisingly, Juan Moreno, once again the best rookie in the NL, and also named NL Batter of the Month. But we are more concerned about what's going on with us. Texas continues to never lose, so we're still only a game up on them with 3 to go. Neto, as you can see, leading the league in steals now, and we're still just 1 game up on the Red Sox for the second best record in the American League, 2 behind the Tigers for the best record in the AL, and 2 behind both the Tigers and the Reds for the best record in baseball. So our magic number is 3. We have got the Minnesota Twins. We'll take a look and see who Texas will be facing off against. And the Rangers have got the Mariners, and they're on the road in Seattle. So it's going to be difficult for us to root for the division rival who won the division a year ago and was leading the division most of this year. But now that we've gotten by the Mariners and the Rangers are closer to us, certainly hoping that Seattle maybe takes 2 out of 3 here, as they are still technically fighting for a tie in the division, and they still technically could end up in a tie for that final wild card spot, so they've got plenty to play for as well. And a big W today, 16-7, traded touchdowns with the Vikings, but we added in 3 field goals for that 16-7 victory in Minnesota. And it ended up being a big one for us because Seattle did end the Rangers' winning streak. So we are now 2 up on the Rangers, 3 up on Seattle. Magic number down to 1, so we just need to win one of these final 2 games, and we can clinch the division. The Red Sox still a game behind us in the standings, and we're only a game behind the Tigers now. So we still conceivably could end up having to play a wild card series, but we could also end up with the best record in the American League with just 2 games to go. So things are very tight, not just in the division, but the overall playoff races here this year. Same thing in the National League, where you can see the Phillies and Braves are tied for the division, and the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers are separated by just a game in the AL, or in the NL West. And the job is done. We are not just going to have a winning record. We are not just going to make the playoffs, but we are the American League West champions. We backed into it. We lost a 2-1 tight game to Minnesota today. Great pitching duel between, for Minnesota, Zebby Matthews, who ended coming out to the game after 81 pitches, and then Corbin Burns pitched well for us before Gabe Spire gave up a run to suffer his first loss of the year. But fortunately for us, Seattle beat Texas. So we have clinched the division. Also, fortunately for us, Boston also lost. So if we win tomorrow, or actually today, since we've simmed forward to today, we will have that first round bye. I guess we need to check the team versus team records here to see if we end up tied with Boston, what that means. And our Los Angeles Angels are 4-2 against the Boston Red Sox. So that means that we have actually clinched a first round bye at this point. So good to know that. Given that, we may take a look at the pitching matchups and rest a couple of key players here, since it doesn't seem like this game against Minnesota is going to mean anything. And we are going to sit Vlad Guerrero Jr., Zach Neto, and Kyle Tucker today. And number 2 starter Taj Bradley was also set to go. We're going to let George Klassen make the start. He pitched 4 days ago, but only 15 pitches. So he's not completely rested, but we're not going to take any risks with our number 2 starter. Want everyone rested and healthy as possible for the playoffs. So given that we took the season series against the Red Sox, and even if we lose today and they win, we should still end up with the first round bye. We're going to be a bit more conservative. And we did end up losing that final game 4-0 to the Twins, so a 94-68 record when all was said and done. Klassen wasn't great, only went 3 2/3 innings, allowed 5 hits, a walk, 2 earned runs. Did strike out 4. Aldegari and Contreras came in and relieved the rest of the game, but kind of a interesting pattern here. We improved 16 games a year ago from 64 to 80, and another 14 game improvement this year from 80 to 94. So that means that, as expected, we are going to have a first round bye to hopefully help Mr. Tucker get a little bit healthier. But as we said, he's going to be likely dealing with that injury throughout the playoffs, however long we are able to play. Kind of interesting, we'll be facing off against one of the AL East teams. The 2 AL West teams are going to get the opportunity to go after the Tigers. Taking a look at the overall standings this year, 94-68 record, as I mentioned, tied with Boston for the second best in the American League, 2 games behind the Tigers. But we get the first round bye by virtue of taking the season series from the Red Sox. Over in the National League, the Reds at 98-64 had the best record in all of baseball. Neto did end up barely leading the league in stolen bases, even though we benched him that final day. He remains the only player that we have on the leaderboard. Taking a look at the team statistics, we finally have a losing month here in October with a 1-2 record, but we've had over a 600 winning percentage in August and September. So I feel like the trades that we made have definitely paid off. Ended up 5th in the American League in runs scored, and you can see in the top half of the league in just about every batting category. I guess we were technically perfectly middle of the pack in walks, where we were tied for 8th. Runs allowed also improved to middle of the pack, 8th in the AL in runs allowed, so that improved a little bit over these last couple months of the season. Team ERA was 6th overall, starter and bullpen ERA 6th and 5th respectively. And the defense definitely improved a lot this year, 6th in defensive efficiency, 4th in zone rating. We certainly got somewhat lucky. Our 94-68 record was 8 better than Pythagorean expectations, but we will take that amount of luck because we not just have the winning record, not just going to the playoffs, but we've got a division title and a first-round bye. So this season went as well as we possibly could have expected, at least as far as the regular season. And we'll see if the first postseason appearance for the Los Angeles Angels in over a decade can be a good one. And we will find out whether or not in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.